Hello. Today I want to continue my series of videos on resource mobilization and the Babi movement, this time talking about the subject of coordination. As with the other videos, this comes from an old article that Moojan, Momen and I wrote back in 1986, The Babi Movement, a Resource Mobilization Perspective. Two general points. One, there's still a lot of work to be done in the field of Babi studies. No doubt further research will add to our understanding of this complex movement. And secondly, the paper on which these remarks is based is primarily sociological in intent, and rather than offering a lot in the way of original historical work. It's also obviously quite dated in terms of the historical sources available to us 35 years ago when we wrote the article. So coordination involves both integration and control. Given that recruitment to a social movement is to a particular local group, the leaders of any larger translocal movement face problems of integration and control if they wish to preserve the movement's unity. Of course, in certain cases, segmentation can be highly effective. As Gerlich and Hein have argued, a movement which is strongly experiential in emphasis, such as Pentecostalism, may spread far more rapidly without centralized organization. A sense of conceptual community provides the basis for continuing interaction between a diversity of local groups. A movement like Babism, however, which is based on a more restricted sense of charismatic authority, lacks this option. Thus, in the Babi case, the initial focal point for belief was the doctrine that the agent of the Imam had appeared and was summoning all people to his cause. A unified movement was clearly desirable. The challenge of effective communication. The problems of integrating and controlling the Babi movement were immense. Effective communications were of great importance. The mercantile network established by the Bab's uncles initially played an important role in this regard. With agents and offices in various parts of Iran and the Persian Gulf, the Bab's family and their business partners could be utilized to forward correspondence between the Bab and his chief disciples. For example, when Mullah Hussein reached Khorasan in 1844, far away in the Iranian northeast, he was able to send a report to the Bab in Shiraz via business associates of the Bab's uncle in Abbas and the family's office in Yazd. But this was probably not an ideal system. During the Bab's lifetime, most of his family remained unbelievers and would presumably have been unwilling to devote too many of their resources to Babi activities. Again, the system was geared to the needs of wholesale trade rather than to religious proselytization. Thus, as the size of the Bab's following grew, a new system of communication evolved based on itinerant Babi couriers. Working eventually on a full-time basis, individuals such as Mullah Adi Ghazal, nicknamed Sayyar, the traveler, made their way between the Bab and the various Babi groups, disseminating the writings of the Bab and bringing back reports and messages to him. Amanuenses in attendance on the Bab also helped to deal with his growing correspondence. Elsewhere, believers worked as copyists to distribute more copies of the Bab's writings, and the steady stream of Babis from all parts of Iran who journeyed to visit the Bab augmented these other forms of communication. Even when the Bab was imprisoned in the remote fortresses in Azerbaijan, at Maku and Chehrik, then this system continued to function with considerable efficiency. Only with extensive persecution was it disrupted. And even so, later Babi and Baha'i couriers working under the direction of Baha'u'llah apparently found it relatively easy to revive. Efficient communications by themselves were not sufficient to ensure the continued integration of the Babi movement. As the primary agents for the religion's expansion, the role of the leading disciples was crucial. If they had asserted their own independence from the Bab, the movement could have rapidly fragmented. Their continued loyalty to their master ensured its unity. Of course, in formal terms, their authority derived from him. As the movement developed, however, the nature of this authority changed, albeit in ways that are not yet entirely clear. Although all of the letters of the living were accorded a special status, it was initially only Mullah Hussein, the Bab al-Bab, the Gate of the Gate, who was generally regarded as possessing any unusual authority within the movement, initially functioning effectively as the Bab's deputy. The intense relationships that existed between Tahereh and her devotees in Karbala, and between Hujjat Zanjani and his followers, appear to have been localized and exceptional. Only after the movement had entered its second and more radical phase did this situation change. Sequestered in the remote northwest, the Bab now revealed his full claims. Whether or not in a strictly parallel development, three of the disciples, Mullah Hussein, Tahereh, and Mullah Muhammad Ali Bafarushi, or Dus, now came to be accorded quasi-theophanic status. The three disciples shared something of the Bab's charismatic authority, the two men at least symbolically reenacting various of the prophecies relating to the coming of the Mahdi in place of their imprisoned leader. This changing relationship between the Bab and his chief disciples was rapidly brought to an end by the violent deaths of all four of them. Deprived of its original charismatic focus, the movement rapidly fragmented. Individual claims to charismatic authority proliferated, and in some respects the Babis began to resemble the segmented conceptual community described by Gerlach and Hein. Only later, with the reintroduction of a centralized organization and the general acceptance of a single charismatic leader in the person of Baha'u'llah, did Babism again become a unified movement. That's all I want to say for the moment. It's a rather short video. Thanks for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons for their kind support and encouragement, without which these videos wouldn't get made. If you want to support my channel, please do so. Like, comment, and share on the videos. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. I'll give Patreon and PayPal links below if you want to provide practical support. Next week, we'll talk about recruitment and conversion. Have a good day.